Wow, that is a beast. Look at it. Have we got one of those each? Nobody wants a soggy Yorkshire. Yeah. I'm imagining this is going to be wonderful.
Ciao and welcome. Today I'm cooking something new, something different. It doesn't have a name because it's my own thing, but it involves puddings and involves potatoes and red meat. I've just oiled a cast iron skillet as I will be making a Yorkshire pudding in there, and it will be going in the oven first. The temperature of 200 degrees. In the meantime, I'll get the batter ready. This is the same recipe I use on a Sunday when I make Yorkshire puddings. I'm adding 8 dessertspoons of flour into a bowl, a pinch of salt, some pepper. I will want my Yorkshire pudding to be nice and big, so I will be adding 5 eggs, and I'll give everything an initial mix with a whisk. I've also added 75 milliliters of water and 75 milliliters of milk, and I've been mixing it for a good minute and aerating it nicely, and this is the sort of consistency that I like when I make my puddings. Not too liquidy, but also nice and smooth. And before it goes in the oven, I'll add a small handful of mixed seeds. These are pumpkins, sunflower and chia seeds. And I'll mix it once again. My very hot skillet is out of the oven, and I'll pour in all of my batter. And it's ready to go back in the oven, the same temperature, 200 degrees, for about 20 minutes or until it has puffed up beautifully and it's got a lovely golden color. I'm now working on the filling for my creation, and I'll start by making a soffritto. I've just chopped a carrot, and I'm doing the same now with a stick of celery, followed by a couple of small red onions, which I'll chop in relatively small pieces. And I'll complete my soffritto with a small clove of garlic, which I'll crush with a knife. I don't need to chop it like this. Olive oil, followed by my chopped vegetables. Everything is beginning to sizzle. I'll put the lid on, I'll turn the temperature down to medium, and I'll leave them to just gently sizzle away for about 5 minutes. Medium-sized potato, and I'm slicing it into half-centimeter pieces, not much bigger than that. A little rosemary, a very quick chop with a knife, a tiny little amount of oil in a saucepan, followed by the potatoes and the rosemary. I'll put the lid on and I'll mix everything together. And just like the soffritto, as soon as they start sizzling, I'll place the lid on. I'll turn the temperature down onto medium-low, number 4, and they will take about 15 minutes to cook, but I will turn them around halfway through. Here is my steak. I'm going to be removing some of this fat. I'll keep some, but I will remove it for now. This weighs 16 ounces or 400 grams, but there is quite a bit of fat, so most probably by the time the fat has been removed, it'll be a little bit less than that. But I am slicing it in a similar size as I did the potatoes, about half a centimeter pieces. In the UK we refer to this as rump steak. You can also substitute it with medallion or sirloin steak, they're all very good. I said that I'll keep some of the fat, so I will use some of this and I'll chop it into very little pieces. I have left quite a bit behind here, so I will remove it, but I will use the opportunity to pinch a little bit more of the fat also. I'll throw the rest away as I don't need it. I've got plenty here for our taste, but of course if you like to keep some of the fat back, entirely up to you. But do ensure that whatever fat you're keeping back, you chop in very, very little pieces. And back to my soffritto. Everything has softened up slightly, and I can add my meat. And I'll turn the temperature up for a couple of minutes until the meat becomes lovely and brown. In the meantime, I can turn the potatoes. And I wanted to show you after 7 minutes or so what they look like. Can you see they are partly cooked already? They got this beautiful golden color and crispy top. And I'll turn them all one by one. The lid goes back on, another 7 minutes or so, and they will be ready. My steak is brown all over, and at this point you can either add some red wine or do what I do, and I add just a tiny little amount of port. Of course you can also add sherry or brandy or even marsala or anything you like. I've added port because it's a little bit sweeter and I really like it. The alcohol has all gone, and I'm adding now a little tomato puree, 1 tablespoon, no actually this is 1 dessertspoon, more like it. And I'll mix it all in, and also I'm going to add, before I forget, some pepper and a half a teaspoon of salt. These are 300 grams of baby plum tomatoes, which I'm going to add in a moment. But before I do so, I'm chopping them in half, as I want the juices to come out, and they will only be cooking for about 10 minutes anyway. You can also use canned tomatoes. You do not have to use fresh tomatoes. But if you were to go down the canned route, I would go for the sweet cherry Italian tomatoes. If you look at the bottom of the pan, it's slightly dry, so before I put the lid on, I'll add a tiny little amount of warm water just enough to hydrate everything together. I'll mix it well and I'll place the lid on, and as I mentioned earlier, this will simmer now for a good 10 minutes. And 10 minutes on, I'm ready to start putting my creation together. I'll start by draining the sauce from my meat first, as this will be like a bit of gravy at the end. So I'm using a little strainer and gently making sure that I don't make a mess. But do leave some behind, it will not harm. In essence, this is the filling for my, you know what, Julie, I've not given this a name yet. Let's call it Italian pie.
You can call it what you like at the moment. It looks lovely.
Yes.
And I haven't got a clue what else you're doing. So.
Look, here is the remaining of the sauce, which is perfect. I'll put this on one side. And my Yorkshire pudding is ready. It's been in the oven for the last 10 minutes, but I left it in there to keep warm.
Oh, it's a beast. Look at that.
There you go, look.
This is why I thought we were having toad in the hole. Look.
You did, yes, actually, wrong board. I'll put it here. There.
Wow, it's a beast. Look
I
at
know. Look, can you see how easily it is coming off because of the oil I put in? That's
Have
perfect.
we got one of those each?
You wish.
No, even I couldn't manage that.
Now you will find that if you make this dish and you make the pudding like I did, you will always get this little mound at in the middle, which is great because it enables me to put all of my filling around it, just like this. But do ensure that you remove most of your sauce. Beside the fact that you will want it at the end, you don't want to make the Yorkshire pudding all very, very soggy.
No, nobody wants a soggy Yorkshire.
This is fresh mozzarella. I refer to it as an Italian pie. So I'm just chopping it with my hands and adding it on the top. And distribute it evenly across the surface of the Italian pie. My potatoes are done and they are cooked throughout. You can actually eat these as a side dish if you like, but they're gonna go on top of my Italian pie.
Am I right in saying this is one of your Francesco-ized, Tortellino-ized
I did say that
pies or ingredient recipes?
she's used to it. Over the years I've made many creations, but I don't think she's seen this one in this particular shape before. Yes.
This is new even for him.
I have introduced that as something new. And this is nearly ready to go back in the oven, but before I do so, I'll sprinkle a little amount of cheddar on top of my roasties like this.
You can't see me, but I'm literally,
Salivating.
I'm imagining this is going to be wonderful.
And as I've got this lovely side of my Yorkshire pudding, I'm going along with the grated cheddar and putting strategically some in there also, so that when it melts, it will be all over. Everything is cooked, the Yorkshire pudding, the meat, the potatoes, so this is now a matter of amalgamating all of the ingredients together and to melt the cheese. So we'll be going back in the oven, temperature lower this time, about 160 degrees, because I don't want to burn my Yorkshire pudding. And about 15 minutes, 1-5, not 50, 1-5, should be enough. But by the time it comes out later, I'll let you know if it's less or more, so see you then. After we turned the camera off, Julie and I had a little chat and we decided that 15 minutes was a little bit too long, so we went for 10, and actually it does look ready. As I mentioned, it's all about making sure that the cheese melts and everything amalgamates, and it does look really good.
It does.
And this will still move freely. I should add that if you're a vegetarian, do not miss out on this delicious meal. You can replace the steak with either zucchini, courgette, or eggplant, aubergines, or peppers, or maybe a mixture of all of them. However, I would cook them first on their own, fry them gently, and then you can add them to the sofrito afterwards, and that would be also very, very nice. And as it is very loose, it will be very easy to just lift it and move it into your plate, like so. And if you had guests, you could just take it to the table as it is and slice it there and then, or you can pre-slice it, entirely up to you. But more importantly, let's see how easy it is to just cut a slice. In many ways, it's not that different to a pizza. And very gently, I will remove one wedge.
Ooh, yum.
Perfect.
Look at that.
You can eat as it is, but if you're anything like Julie, she likes sauces, so I always make a little sauce. so that she doesn't complain.
As if I would ever complain.
Let's see what this tastes like. Assolutamente deliziosa. It's really nice. And actually, the Yorkshire pudding is quite light, which is a bonus. Potatoes are a little bit heavier, but it is compensating clearly. But it's a really delicious Italian, but also mixed maybe with some British taste. It's wonderful. Make it and let me know how you get on. We are gonna be eating that now. So arrivederci, buon appetito e grazie. Thank you for watching. Ciao.